How are you, Sanjeev? How are you, first of all? How do you
I'm
feel?
really well, thank you, Sarah. How are you?
I'm fine. I see you. I'm fine because finally, after I think it's something like that, finally we have the opportunity to have this Zoom and to talk about this amazing NLP.
Yep.
And yeah, I'm very blessed and honored that you said yes about this call and having this conversation in the Uareu channel. And I really want people to understand what is NLP because it changed my life. And I think it can change a lot of lives as well. And yeah, can you tell us who you are and how amazing you are as well? And tell us a few words about you, the people to understand who you are.
Sure. Firstly, obviously, thank you for having me and appreciate you having me on the channel. For anyone that doesn't know, my name is Sanjeev. I run a coaching company called The Habit Wizard. I've been running this now full time for, I think, coming up to be 4 years this year. And primarily, I specifically help people in having a better understanding around both their habits and their mindset. And particularly for this call, the mindset side is going to be far more important to discuss today. A lot of the stuff that I work on in terms of mindset, and that is just all about sort of wellness, emotional balance, perspective, attitudes, beliefs, all comes from some of the core concepts of NLP. So I really agree with some of the things that you opened with. NLP was a huge eye-opener for me, not just in my personal life, but in helping others to help themselves as well, I should say. So yeah, I'm excited to dig into this a little bit today.
Yeah, it's very good. So I'm very, very happy that we're going to talk about NLP today. As I told you in our previous conversation, I have discovered NLP without knowing that I was actually practicing NLP, which is amazing.
Yeah.
I feel so smart right now. But yeah, so that's why I want you to tell us about a bit about what is, first of all, the meaning of NLP.
Okay, great question, right? Great place to start, because I think still to this day, I feel that there's not a lot of people that have either heard of NLP or understand it fully in terms of what it is. So NLP, to my understanding, is comprised of 3 parts. So NLP stands for Neuro Linguistic Programming. And NLP is basically a psychological approach which explores the connection between all of these 3 things. So the neuro part of NLP is short for the neurological processes, which is basically how our minds understand and interpret everything that we see and experience in the world. The second part is linguistic, which is our spoken language. And our spoken language, as you start to understand NLP, gives you insights into your beliefs and your thought processes about, again, how you're understanding and interpreting the world. And the last section, programming, relates to our behavior patterns in which we've learned from experiences throughout our life. So our minds, our language, and our behavior patterns are the 3 things that connect NLP together. And its aim is to help you deep understanding these areas to get you to have the ability to change your thoughts and behaviors to achieve the desired outcome.
I can't hear him anymore, Rash. I can't hear anymore. What did you do?
Okay, perfect.
So yeah, can you tell us about what is NLP, the meaning of NLP, what is NLP? People want to know because I'm sure people are curious and they don't know what we are talking about right now.
Yeah, sure. It's a great question to start from. And I think you're right. I think not enough people probably know what NLP is. And it's an important foundation to start from. So NLP, to my understanding, is comprised of 3 parts. So NLP actually stands for Neuro Linguistic Programming. The neuro part of this is the neurological processes, which is essentially a fancy name for our minds and how we understand and interpret the world. The second part, which is linguistic, again, fancy word for our spoken language, which gives us some insights into our beliefs and thoughts, and again, how we interpret the world. And the last one, programming, refers to our behavior patterns, both built from our experiences growing up right from a young age until date. So NLP is essentially a psychological study that explores the connection between these three areas. And with this deeper understanding, allows you to change or modify your thoughts and behaviors to help you achieve a certain outcome.
Yeah, definitely. It's very interesting because, as I told you before, I will tell you about a little bit about how I discovered this NLP thing. So I always wanted to be a successful person since a young age, you know. I really wanted to achieve a lot of things, etc. But I just realized that my past was dragging me down all the time. And I was like, okay, let me think, how can I change it? And then I just like observed how people did. And around me, I had a lot of successful people. And I was like, just observing them, observing their patterns and the way they were thinking, etc. And then when I was reading a bit more about that, I just discovered that I was doing some techniques of NLP without knowing. And I was like, wow, NLP is just amazing. And I'm sure that it can change, I'm sure it changed your life as well. And I'm sure it can definitely change people's life. So if you can just tell us maybe the fundamental of NLP and maybe later how does it work, etc. For the people really to fully understand this amazing NLP.
Yeah, for sure. So for me, the fundamental principle behind NLP, and again, just something for a little bit of context, is NLP goes back to starting off in the 70s. Created by a couple of guys, Richard Bandler and John Grinder, I believe it is. They actually parted ways and now teach NLP completely separately. So whilst the core model was created by these two guys, NLP is quite an open field source of study, in that there's been a lot of people that take the core foundations of NLP and make it their own, reteach it. And so depending on where you learn NLP from, you may be getting the version where it first started, or you may be getting a variation of it, depending on where you learned it. So I know the core foundations of it, I know a variation of it, and then I have kind of my own version as well. And so I'll give you a kind of mix of what I believe the core fundamentals of NLP are. And for me, it comes in a small sentence, right? And it's that everything in life starts with a belief. The beliefs that you have go on to affect or impact or influence what you think. What you think on a day-to-day basis determines what you feel. What you feel will determine what actions you take. The actions you take determine what become habits, because the actions that you repeat just become habits.
Exactly.
And habits are essentially part of who you are. They form your identity. And so if I had to frame NLP in a sentence or a short paragraph, it would be that. Beliefs form your thoughts, thoughts influence your feelings, feelings influence your actions, actions become habits, and habits are part of your identity.
Yeah. It's really interesting because you're talking about beliefs, and I was telling you that I have this false beliefs in my head was stopping me to do things in my life. And when I understood that you can change it by some techniques of NLP, I was just like, okay, so our brain is just amazing. You can do anything you want in your life. You can achieve anything you want in your life because like others, they become successful. Why not you? And this is really what I want to share with people today and tell them that everything is possible. You just have to change your habits, as you said, take some actions and by the techniques of NLP. So can you tell us maybe how does it work? And I think you do something which is not common, and I really want to share it with people.
Of course.
How you do to share this NLP techniques. I think it's really amazing, by the way. So I'm going to to tell us, I want you to tell us how it works with your techniques.
Perfect. So my understanding and how I came to learn of NLP started with an idea. I'd say I first heard of NLP when I was a teenager. And the reason I ended up coming across it was actually nothing to do with the psychology aspect. I used to work and still do as a magician. And part of my job, I used to do specialize in a lot of card magic, and I simply wanted to be a better magician. And part of my role, the more I figured out, is that there's a part of magic which is all about, yes, it's the mechanics of being able to do sleight of hand or manipulate cards. But then there's a big part of my job which is about being able to understand and interpret people. And so in my quest to become better with that, I started Googling loads of things to do with psychology online, and I came across NLP. And so I was first exposed to some of the techniques and the understandings from a young age. I didn't end up actually practicing it and going through courses and things like that until much more recently. So when I started using NLP, like I said, it first came to me through magic. Now, how I describe this now is I'll do it through a little demonstration. So what I have here is a completely normal deck of cards. You can see all the cards are different. I'll give the deck a little cut, and we will take a card, let's say from the top of the pack. We have here the 10 of hearts. Okay, so in this example, the 10 is going to represent somebody's idea of a perfect life, or perfect career, perfect health, whatever it may be, but it's going to be the perfect element of your life, the 10 out of 10, if you will. Now, the problem that most people make is all they focus on is the surface level area. They focus on the end goal. They focus on the amount of money they want in their bank account, or the status they want to achieve in their career, whatever it is. But actually what they need to be focusing on is the things behind the 10, which make the 10 possible. And so when I try and show people how to break this down, actually the 10 is not really the 10. When you look past the 10, you see that it's actually made up of two things. So the 2 5s, and for me, the 2 5s are a representation of your habits and your mindset. So if you're able to get a grasp of both your habits and your mindset, you actually end up with the 10 inadvertently, right? So you focus on the 2 5s and you end up with the 10. And this for me is a great example of exactly how NLP works, because when I started going into coaching, the thing that I focused on mainly at the start was people's habits. I fell in love with this quote that I heard, which was, people don't decide their futures, they decide their habits, and their habits decide their futures. And I was like, it's amazing. It seems to resonate. It resonated so much with me. And I saw that a lot in so many people that I was around. The reason NLP became so important is because I asked myself, well, how do you really take a grasp of your habits? There are certain techniques that we can use to build habits and manipulate them in better ways, but actually really taking control of your habits involves digging deeper and understanding your mindset. And in understanding your mindset, it's unpacking what you believe. And I think, as you rightly said, for a lot of people, we actually hold ourselves back in every area of our lives. And a lot of that is formed from beliefs which are start from a child. And actually, you were so young at a point where you formed some of these beliefs. They sit so ingrained in part of your mind. You don't understand that they're actually limiting you from certain things. And it could be small comments. It could be a friend or a family member or someone saying, we can't afford that. And that little thing will stick with you. And you won't know it, but it'll affect how you look at money much later on in life. If somebody tells you you can't do something, you're not strong enough, you're not tall enough, you're not smart enough, all these things happen from such a young age, but they form a belief inside your head as to what you believe is actually possible in life. So for me, using NLP helped me understand that the core foundations of everything start with, what are our beliefs? The moment you can start to understand you're doing something or you're thinking something in a certain way, it's coming from a belief. The moment you can backtrack and figure out where that belief first started is the moment you can ask yourself the powerful question, is that belief helping me or is it holding me back?
Yes, totally.
And so And NLP is just a way for me to explore, again, the connection between the three things: our mind, our language, and our behavior patterns. And these all give me insights as to the fundamental question: what do you believe?
Yeah, and is you believe the reality. This is the thing as well, because as you said, people can be your neighbor, it can be your mother one day, you know.
Yeah.
And also, especially, I think, you know, the generation of before didn't have all these techniques, the way to talk to the children that we have right now. So, and they didn't know that it would affect us a lot and affect our future right now and our present. And I think it's very important what you said, because yeah, maybe at school as well, you know, kids were not so nice. I don't know for you in the UK, but in France it was like sometimes horrible. I will tell you a little thing about me when I was young. So basically I was just playing, you know, with my other friends. And one guy was playing basketball, and then the ball came next to me. And then he went to take the ball, and he looked at me and he said, "Oh my God, you are so ugly."
Wow.
Wow. I was like, okay, you know, okay. But then I cried for maybe 2 weeks. And because I was in a Catholic school, and brown hair, big eyebrows, Muslim, you know, and I was different. But now I know that my difference make my power. But before I didn't know. And this guy was just trying to drag me down because maybe was maybe scared of the difference, because I was the only brown hair. They were all blonde. You know? But it's a little example that, you know, then he created for me a false belief. Maybe when I grew up, I didn't have enough confidence because I felt so different. But today, my difference is making me who I am. And I'm very proud of who I am. But, you know, it took me so many years to understand that. And that's the purpose of the video today, for the people to understand that what happened in your past can be completely changed if you really work on it, if you have new habits and take actions about that. So I'm very happy with everything you said. And can you just tell us maybe more in a little bit in details how it can affect your personal or business life?
Yeah, sure. So the more I started learning, and this is my personal experience with it, the more I started learning about NLP, the more I understand that actually when you start unpacking layer by layer, so if I start from the model that I described, if I try to unpack who I am as a person, I have to look at the habits that I have. If I want to look at where the habits came from, I have to unpack the actions. If I want to understand the actions, I have to think about how I feel. Looking at how I feel, I have to understand what goes on in my mind. And understanding what happens in my mind goes back to my beliefs. The moment that I realized that actually some of the beliefs that I have might not be true was a powerful moment for me, because then I realized the whole world is determined by nothing else except perspective. Because in the exact situation which you described in your childhood, where for some reason somebody stood there and called you ugly, there could be two outcomes from that scenario. You could either grow up believing that narrative and believing that you weren't pretty enough, you were ugly, you were this person that somebody told you as a young person, and you could carry that throughout life as a weight on your shoulders. Or you could have the perspective of, I'm going to show them. I'm going to be the most beautiful person that I can be because I had that experience. So for me, actually, the important thing is it's not the experience itself. It's never the situation. It's always about your perspective about the situation and what you go on to do after that. And for me, that was the biggest shift that came from understanding NLP, how we can tweak our mindset, our language, and our behavior to help change our experiences with things that have happened in the past. And for me, it's all about achieving one of two things. I either want to achieve peace or progression. If my mindset is not helping me achieve either of those two things, it's going to be holding me back.
Yeah.
And so if I'm ever in a situation where I'm saying, if something is holding me back, the first thing that I do, and I ask myself, is how can I change my perspective? And NLP has some great exercises to help you do this. And I'll give you a really simple one that I use day in and day out. And this is something that people can take away almost immediately. So a lot of people that have talked to me and worked with me before will understand I'm a big fan of wristbands. I wear a lot of different wristbands. And again, this comes from understanding how habits work, but I wear them for particular reasons because I'm trying to train my mind to think of certain things continuously all the time.
Okay.
And so some of the wristbands I wear, and again, I give them different meanings on different days, depending on how I'm feeling. But sometimes the wristband is just about coming back to the present moment. Sometimes it's about continually thinking of a different perspective. And so if I said, every time I see this wristband throughout the day, I have to think of a different perspective. So one thing that completely changed my life a few years ago, after I started becoming better at NLP and I started becoming a lot more mindful, was I used to get really bad road rage. Whenever I would drive, I would get really frustrated at other people on the road. And one day I was driving, I started to dabble into the world of NLP, trying to help myself and trying to train myself to help others at the same time. I saw my wristband. Somebody had basically cut me up on the road. My normal actions at that point would be to be angry, to be frustrated, probably start swearing at the person, like most Brits do. And the first thing I saw as I was driving was my wristband. And at that day, my reminder for that day was, how can I shift my perspective? How can I change my belief on the world? Because my belief at that time was that person is rude. That person is arrogant. That person doesn't know how to drive. And so the different perspective that I thought of, and again, it was such a small tweak, but it made the world a difference, is what if that person wasn't rude? What if they were rushing to get to hospital to see a loved one for the last time? And how would I feel differently about that scenario? Because then I went from instantly angry or frustrated to actually having empathy in that situation. Nothing changed about the situation. He still cut me up in the road, but simply making a small shift to my perspective and what I believed about the situation and that person completely changed how I dealt with that scenario. And actually, I was a happier person for it. I no longer had this anger and frustration about what had happened on the road. If anything, I felt sorry for the person. And I thought, you know what? Please go ahead.
Please after me.
Exactly. So just really small example, but it was massively informative for me. And it was a really pivotal moment for me, because the moment I realized I could apply it to such a small area of my life is when I started thinking, how can I apply this to other areas where I'm not getting what I want? Is there a different perspective that I could take? Is there a different belief that I could take on? Is there something within me from my childhood that I could start to challenge that could make me feel better or have a more positive mindset in this scenario when coming to tackle this problem at work, at home, in my relationship, whatever it may be? So that was a really pivotal moment for me.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And I think the second video of Uareu channel was about perception, perspective, and how you can change it and how it can change your life. When you change the perception of your life, it can be amazing. So I totally agree with you on that. And me, it's a very good technique that you gave, and I think I'm going to take it for something. But I do the same, not the same technique, but for me, I became so strong in my head because of my past and what I have been through, that now I don't know how I did it, but I just do it automatically. Like when I have a situation, like think. Think. And think positively. Think, as you said, like check the perception before, and always, see in the situation, it doesn't have to define your entire life after, you know, it's only in the present moment, as you said.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I think it's all coming from that. As you said, I told you it's the second video of Uareu channel is about the perception that you have in the moment. It's very, very important for the people to understand the perception of your life can change everything. So it's very important. I agree. So do you have maybe, can you give us all the examples that you have, different techniques? And then hopefully next week, we're going to post another video about an exercise that we can put together and going to do you will be coaching me. And I will be very honored, by the way. And then we can share with the people deeply an example. But if you can share with us other little tips that people can use.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So one of the things that I accompany with both my understanding of NLP and habits, and again, I think this is something that everyone could incorporate because it's going to help your overall understanding in terms of getting a better grip of your mindset, your emotions, your behavior, is understanding that the vast majority of the time during our day-to-day, we actually operate on autopilot. Okay, we run off of our habitual patterns. That can be in terms of our behavior, that can be in terms of our thought. So actually, if you want to make change in any part of your life, and again, I take this back to the fundamental principles of NLP. If you want to change who you are as a person, you have to change your habits. Well, if you want to change your habits, you have to change your actions. If you want to change your actions, you have to change your feelings, your thoughts, and your beliefs. But actually, how do you start to do that in the moment? And so one of the best practices that I recommend for absolutely everyone is to start with meditation. Because the key to coming off of autopilot is learning how to meditate and be present and be mindful in each and every moment of your life. Because what tends to happen is when people are fueled by certain beliefs or perspectives that you've had, and again, these can be ingrained right from childhood, is you will live these almost on autopilot. Somebody will say something will happen in the real world and it will trigger you, and you'll actually do something that you maybe don't necessarily agree with. You'll get angry instantly. You won't understand why, but you'll regret it 10 minutes later, an hour later, a day later, and you'll say, I wish I didn't do that. I wish I didn't say that. I wish I didn't think like that. The most powerful way to change that is understand and becoming aware of those thoughts, feelings, and emotions in the moment. And the only way to do that is to start taking yourself off autopilot. And so what I would recommend as a tip for most people that really are serious about making change in any area of their life is understand how to become more mindful. And you can get that through a practice of meditation. And so I started meditating, I think about 3 years ago now, and I've been doing so every single day. Again, another one of those little things that really changed the course of my life for the better. But there are some great apps out there. I started off using an app called Headspace. I used one called Calm. I'm currently using one called Insight Timer. 3 really good apps that are well worth checking out for anybody that hasn't started yet. But they will help you in first pulling yourself off autopilot. So as you mentioned, we're going to go through some exercises together, and we can do a demonstration and things like this. But actually, the exercise is great. It's powerful, but it's only powerful when you learn to use it at the right time. So doing it in hindsight can be great, and it can give you some learning and perspective for the next time. But actually, doing the exercise in the moment is the most powerful thing that you can do. And the only way to remember and pull yourself out of a situation, whether that's physically or mentally, to be able to do that exercise is actually being present. You'll be surprised the amount of people that have arguments or are frustrated or are angry, but are on autopilot. And they don't realize that actually they're getting angry because of something that they're thinking. If you could interrupt that pattern of thought and throw in an exercise for NLP, then actually you can break that entire pattern or habit and create an entirely different outcome. So another tip that would be great for a lot of people is start looking into meditation. Just some short mindfulness practices every single day. It doesn't have to take long, 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes just to start with and build yourself up. And honestly, one of the most life-changing habits that anyone can adopt.
Yes, I totally agree. And I will add also, I think something else is, as you said, like living the moment, etc. It's completely true. But people, I think, has to be aware as well. It's by repeating things as well. Like you can't just, do an exercise and then becoming again the old you and then do an exercise after 3 months. It's not going to work. People need to understand, even meditating, it's something like our channel, I recorded with my humble voice, trying my best with positive affirmations and also frequencies, hertz frequency solfege music. I don't know if you're aware about that. With some positive affirmations to repeat to yourself. And I say to the people to do it 20 as minimum, to create a habit. And people need really to understand that if they really want to work on them, it has to be something that they repeat for the brain to understand something. Otherwise, it's not going to work. I mean, people think that life is going to be easy like that, but you have to work on yourself first and do things repeatedly.
I agree. I agree. 100%. I have a notion that I constantly preach, which is that the path to mastery is not through intensity, it's through consistency, right? Exactly. You have to show up every single day. One of the things that I learned and gained from NLP is an understanding that actually, I believe nobody is born happy and nobody is born sad. Everyone comes neutral. If you are unhappy today, it's because you've learned to become unhappy. And if you are a happy person today, it's because you've learned to become happy. The key thing in both of those scenarios is both of those outcomes are learned. The moment you understand that, you can unlearn anything you like, but you have to be consistent with your practice.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. In one of our video in the channel, I'm saying, if you are in depression, it's your fault. I'm saying that straight away. There are some comments, people. I said, listen, French don't use sugar, only macarons, So, because I'm quite straight away, but I mean, you choose to be, and if you didn't choose to be, then work on it and be aware that you can be happy, but you have to work on it. So I totally got your point. So I think we're going to finish the video for today, if you don't mind.
Of course.
Talked about everything, and then I think the video of next week that we will post. That we will record it now, guys. I will not lie to you. But we will post it next week. Maybe we should give it a try of an exercise. I'm so excited to see what you prepared for me. I'm a bit scared because I don't know, but it's okay. And I wanted to thank you so much. I think I really, really, really appreciate what you said, and even me, I have learned things, and I want to thank you for that. Thank you to be part of Uareu community now, and hopefully you enjoyed as well. And,
of course.
I'm sure just if you can say to the people how they can reach you and how you can coach them, because I'm sure you're going to have people who will want to know more. I'm not the professional here, you are. So you can just give us your Instagram, how they can reach you, etc. Your YouTube channel, I think you have also a YouTube channel. So I'm going to put all that on the screen. So if you can just tell us about how people can reach you, it will be fantastic.
Yeah, perfect. So I'm across most social media platforms. I've got TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, and I go all by The Habit Wizard. So it's just a quirky name based on my understanding of habits and the love of magic, The Habit Wizard. But yeah, you can find me Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, and my website, thehabitwizard.com.
Okay, that's perfect. Thank you so much.